After finally admitting the depth of their feelings for each other, Ian and Heju spend their first peaceful night together, believing for a brief moment that the endless chaos surrounding them has finally quieted down. Wrapped in warmth and exhaustion after everything they had survived, they allow themselves to forget the palace, the scandals, and the danger waiting outside. But that fragile peace shatters by morning. Heju slowly wakes up and sees Ian leaving the bed in his sleepwear, preparing to return to the palace once again. Before either of them can say much, a violent explosion suddenly erupts through the royal audience hall, shaking the entire palace grounds. The sound alone is enough to send panic everywhere. The explosion was no accident. On the exact day Ian was finally meant to receive the royal decree, after refusing it 3 times, Prime Minister Min Jong-woo secretly summoned him to the audience hall under the excuse of wanting a private meeting. At the same time, Buon-gun had explosives planted inside the palace itself. The attack exposes just how fragile the royal family's protection has become. Fires and attacks have repeatedly surrounded the palace ever since the late king's death, yet somehow danger still slips inside the royal grounds with terrifying ease. As the smoke and panic spread, Heju immediately senses that something is wrong. While everyone else focuses on the chaos itself, her instincts begin pointing toward a far more frightening possibility. Because the truly dangerous person may not be Buon-gun, it may be Prime Minister Min Jong-woo, a man who stood beside Ian for nearly 30 years. A man Ian trusted more than almost anyone else. Yet behind that loyalty hides something twisted and dangerous enough to destroy everything. The moment Heju begins realizing this, something inside her changes completely. The woman who once stayed quiet to survive suddenly becomes fearless when Ian's life is threatened. Anyone involved in hurting him instantly becomes her enemy, no matter how close they once were. Meanwhile, the royal family faces another public scandal after reporters begin attacking Heju over the poisoning incident and the truth behind her contract marriage with Ian. During one brutal confrontation, reporters even accuse her collapse at the wedding of being staged. But Song Tae-ju immediately steps forward to defend her. Furious at the accusation, he demands to know why anyone would think she would poison herself intentionally. Because divorce remains such a taboo within the royal family, Tae-ju cleverly shifts the blame onto himself, claiming that the divorce clause in the contract only existed because he worried about his younger sister's future and wanted to prepare for every possibility. At the same time, Ian slowly begins understanding the heartbreaking truth behind Heju's actions. She keeps insisting she wants a divorce because she does not want to lose anything else anymore. But the reality is far more painful. Heju is preparing to sacrifice herself completely if that is what it takes to protect him. And Ian knows it. For the first time, the guilt inside him becomes unbearable. Standing alone inside the dark East Palace, Ian quietly breaks down in tears. He blames himself for failing to make Heju feel safe enough to lean on him fully. He hates the fact that she still believes she has to protect him alone. That night, Ian makes a vow to himself. He refuses to remain powerless like his older brother, unable to protect the people he loves. The memory of the late king begins haunting him once again. 3 years earlier, before his death, the late king secretly handed Ian a red dragon robe, a robe only meant for a king. Ian understood immediately what his brother truly wanted, but he hesitated. Part of him believed that becoming king might allow him to protect everyone, but another part feared that desire itself might simply be greed. And because his young nephew was frightened and vulnerable, Ian chose to step back instead of taking the throne for himself. Now everything has changed. An innocent child is being manipulated like a puppet. The palace is collapsing into corruption and violence, and Heju is being dragged deeper into danger because of him. Ian finally realizes that standing back is no longer protecting anyone. Accepting the throne becomes the only way to save the people he loves. As ministers gather and the late king's royal decree is finally read aloud, the atmosphere inside the palace becomes unbearably tense. Ian understands that once he accepts the decree, there will be no turning back. But before he can fully step into his new role, disaster strikes again. The royal audience hall explodes into flames with Ian still trapped inside. The second Heju hears what happened, she runs directly into the burning hall without hesitation. She does not stop to think about the danger. She only thinks about him. Inside the collapsing hall, she finds Ian unconscious among the flames and smoke. He is rushed to the hospital suffering from severe carbon monoxide poisoning, but he does not wake up immediately. Soon terrifying rumors begin spreading throughout the palace that Grand Prince Ian may already be dead. While Heju stays desperately by his side, Prime Minister Min begins moving politically behind the scenes. He argues that because Ian is unconscious, the Queen Mother should temporarily take over royal authority. At the same time, he quietly threatens Heju using the poisoning case against Yang, making it painfully clear that he intends to control both the palace and the Queen Mother from the shadows. But Heju refuses to sit quietly anymore. When the authorities arrest a single royal guard for the explosion, she immediately realizes it cannot possibly be that simple. One guard alone could never have orchestrated such an attack, so she begins investigating secretly herself. Before going to the audience hall, Ian had left his phone behind. Once Heju checks it, she discovers the message from Prime Minister Min asking Ian to meet him at the hall shortly before the explosion. From that moment onward, her suspicions grow impossible to ignore. She checks CCTV footage and discovers that while the explosion happened, Prime Minister Min was not inside the palace at all. He had parked nearby and remained outside intentionally. Worse still, his own chief of staff later confirms that Min deliberately delayed entering because there was still time left. The horrifying truth finally becomes unavoidable. The person Ian trusted most may have been the one trying to kill him, and yet without undeniable proof, they still cannot arrest him. Meanwhile, Heju's father desperately wants her divorced and separated from the royal family before things become even more dangerous. But after seeing how determined she is to stay beside Ian no matter what happens, even he begins searching for another way to protect her without forcing her to abandon the man she loves. At the same time, the Queen Mother learns that the throne is slipping away from her control and moving toward Ian instead. Furious and heartbroken, she confronts the painful sacrifices she buried long ago. Before entering the royal family, she once dreamed of becoming a pianist, but she gave up everything for the crown. In her mind, Ian owes the family the same sacrifice, but Ian refuses to continue living under guilt and manipulation. When he confronts the Queen Mother directly, he finally says the words he had suppressed for years. His nephew is only 8 years old. He has no power of his own. The adults around him are turning him into a puppet, and Ian can no longer stand by and watch it happen. Moving to the present time, as soon as Ian regains consciousness and learns that rumors of his death have already spread throughout the palace, panic sets in. Worried about Heju, he immediately rushes out to find her. Meanwhile, Heju, overwhelmed with fear and emotion, hurries forward the moment she hears he may still be alive. But before she can go any further, someone suddenly catches her arm. Shocked, she turns around and freezes when she sees and standing right behind her, alive and safe. Overcome with relief, he instantly pulls her into his arms, holding her tightly as though neither of them is willing to let go after coming so close to losing each other. Elsewhere, the atmosphere turns cold when Prime Minister Jiangwu hears that and has awakened. Rather than looking relieved, his face hardens with quiet irritation. He quickly contacts someone in secret and says in a low, calculated voice, now that the Grand Prince has regained consciousness, it's time to clean up the loose ends. His ominous words strongly suggest that the fire and everything surrounding it may have been part of something far more sinister.